Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Training Simplified Live. What is up, everyone?
Hey,
Welcome.
welcome everybody. What an intro.
I started before. I started before it was over. Wow. Rookie move. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. We got some people joining us. This is week 2 of Training Simplified Live. This is just a weekly show that Sam and I do. We're the co-founders of Training Simplified. We have conversations like this every week with each other, and we were like, let's just bring everybody in. And so we're super excited today to have our first guest, someone who we know very well. We're very excited to have here. But first, my name is Matt. This is Sam, my partner. Sam.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here.
And we're super excited today to welcome Stuart Wolf. Stuart,
Hey everybody. I'm your first guest.
you
I'm
are our
I'm
first
so
guest
honored.
on
What?
Training Simplified Live.
Oh
We've done
wow.
podcast guests, but this is the show, right?
Yeah. No, I feel honored.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you guys don't know Stuart, Sam and I go way back with Stuart. We worked together at Chipotle. But Stuart's really been building training for over 10 years. He started in food service, building training at Chipotle, like I said, before moving to a startup project that was at Verizon. He's now the VP of training at Karma, which he's going to tell us more about, which is a telecom software company in Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
Does that
Awesome.
about
Great
right?
intro. That sounded perfect. Just like we practiced.
Just
Just
like we
no,
practiced. Thank you so
we've come a
much.
long way. It's been really great. And I just want to say thanks again for those on the call. Like Matt and Sam are just two huge industry leaders. They're incredible at what they do. I'm very honored to be very good friends with them and also to partner with them on projects. So it's great. I think working with you guys has helped catapult my career to where it is today. And I have so much to thank, and hopefully I have some stuff to give back to your listeners today.
I think so. I mean, that's the exciting part, Stuart, is like we worked together a decade ago, but like we've got folks here from the food service, but your experience goes food service to technology to engineering to a wide variety. And I think that's the cool part about what we want to keep infusing here is like a lot of the lessons that we're going to talk through are applicable regardless of what industry you're in. We're teaching people. And so the concepts of teaching people are applicable no matter what industry you're in, and you've got a wide variety to bring to it. So it'll be exciting to hear how you've transitioned between groups, what stays the same, what's different, et cetera. So it'll be fun to learn today.
Very cool.
Excellent.
Well, we have to do the obligatory thing where we ask everybody to just type really quick into the chat and tell us where you're coming from. Let's just make sure that the chat works now. If you're typing into the chat and it's not working, that means that
I'm in Denver, just so everybody else knows. I'm in Colorado, and
boom, there
Matt
we
and
go.
Sam are in different times. I think we're in 3 different time zones, right? I think so.
That's right.
That's
Charlotte,
right.
North Carolina, East Coast over here.
We are in 3 different time zones. So just really quick, just so everyone knows how to use the chat, if you could just like tell us where you're from really quick, we would love to just see that, where people are from around the country. And anytime throughout this show, feel free, you could ask a question in the chat. I'm assuming it doesn't work because no one's doing it.
It takes a minute sometimes.
Yeah. Give them a minute. Or you know what works in training is we could always threaten to call on them. I mean, that always gets the
Chat is
people
still
typing.
disabled.
Yeah.
Thanks,
We got
Philip.
one says chat still disabled. Let's see. We'll figure it out.
We will figure it out.
User error on our part.
We will figure it out here in a minute.
Yes.
In the meantime, yes, so today we are kind of continuing on. It's sort of a part 2 to last week. Last week we talked about day 1 of an employee and creating this dynamic new hire experience. Today we're gonna talk through kind of day 2 through day 90, and really about how to create autonomy, how to an employee becomes autonomy in those first 90 days. All right. So this is just building on what we talked about last week. And next week, we're going to really focus in on day 90, assessing what that looks like, performance management, how we know that they've been successful, and really diving into that. So we're sort of building on this theme, on this timeline that Sam shared last week, and we're going to be taking a look at that again today. But first, Before we dive into the discussion today, every single week we do a restaurant spotlight. We work with a variety of different brands and retail, hospitality, manufacturing, but really a lot of our clients that we work with are restaurants, doing restaurant training, building culture in large scale multi-unit brands. And so we just thought it'd be fun to spotlight a different restaurant every single week. And so this week, Sam went to one of his faves, and he's going to be sharing that now while we figure out how to make the chat work.
Here we go. Welcome to it. All right, so on the way to Jim and Nick's Community Barbecue right now. One of the reasons why we're going to Jim and Nick's Community Barbecue is because of this place right here. Red Ventures is a tech company down here in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you've ever moved to a new city before, you know that feeling where you're trying to find local spots to eat, you're trying to find just places that feel like home or feel like your new home. I would be in this building. This is my literal building. I had a 4-month-old kid and a 2-year-old kid. And my job would be to bring home dinner some nights. I would turn left right out of here. And the very first stop as I would pull out was Jim and Nick's. And we were like, oh, Jim and Nick's Community Barbecue. That sounds perfect. We thought this was the local spot here. Every week I would come in, I'd go right through here, and I'd pop into the drive-thru. And getting this good of barbecue in a drive-thru was unbelievable. Turns out Jim and Nick's is not local to Charlotte. It's been around for over 40 years now, 57 locations. The story of Jim and Nick started in 1985 by the father and son duo. They were Jim and they were Nick, and they started this hospitality brand serving Southern barbecue. And everything here is made in-house, made from scratch every single day. You can smell the barbecue out here. I'm out here in the parking lot right now, and you can smell the barbecue in the air, which is awesome. It's a great smell when you're out here. You can feel it when you're inside. No freezers, no microwaves, just great Southern cooking. It's a place that feels like community barbecue. It feels like the local spot, even though it's one of 57. So let's head inside and let's see a little bit more about what makes it special. Our first Christmas party at work from Red Ventures was in this room. Maybe not the most fancy holiday party coming to Jim and Nick's room, but I thought it was pretty great. One of the things that's making them really special, I think, is the no freezers, no microwaves. Talk about the smoke outside. They're smoking their pulled pork especially for 12, 24 hours. But no freezers, no microwaves. You can taste it in the food, and that commitment to quality that I think separates this from a lot of restaurants. One of the best things that a brand needs is that addictive food, the thing that keeps you craved and coming back, and this is it. This is the cheesy biscuits here. Oh my God, so hot, out of the oven, unbelievable. When you dine in, they come for free. Totally worth it. One of the things that I love that a lot of great brands do is not just invest in the growth of people, but specifically in the general managers. They realize that the general managers are the key to success. So Jim and Nick's has a partner program for their general managers where if you've been there for a certain amount of time and you're delivering a certain level of quality, you enter the partner program, which gives you a portion of profits of the restaurant. I think that's such a strong, powerful message to your teams that if you perform well, we don't want you to become a multi-unit manager. We want great general managers. We were lucky enough to see the Jim and Nick's team along with their CEO Larry Ryback at the Chart Conference a few months ago. And the beautiful thing about the Chart Conference was it honors someone every year. And this year, Larry and the Jim and Nick's team won the Spirit of People Award for their commitment to people, their dedication to training and development. And it was great, honestly, just to see them get awarded. But when you see somebody on stage, you can tell how genuine they are, I think, in their speech. And Larry's just so down to earth, thanked his wife who was there in a very meaningful and heartfelt way that didn't seem rehearsed or staged at all. It was pretty wonderful. So a huge shout out to them for their commitment to people. And to me, it really shows through. That's why a community barbecue place can feel like a local spot, even though it's one of 57. They've won the Commitment to People Award. They've got this local feeling that convinced me that it was a local spot, even though it was one of 57. But they've done that while being PE backed, and that's not the case for a lot of restaurant brands. Once they get that PE backing, it's stripped for parts, it's tried to be commoditized or commercialized, and Jim and Nick's hasn't had that feeling at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. As they're growing, they're staying invested to that service and that hospitality, that Southern hospitality, as they continue to grow with the continued investment in real high quality made from scratch food. So kudos to them as well for being PE backed, but being able to maintain the soul of the brand while they continue to grow.
Let's see how this is.
That is Jim and Nick's Community Barbecue with PE backing, 57 units and growing. Everything made in-house, no freezers, no microwaves. Pulled pork smoked for 12 to 24 hours in advance. You can taste it, and it feels like your local spot. Jim and Nick's, not from Charlotte, North Carolina. Still pretty good though.
Awesome.
Guys,
That's great.
it took 3 trips there to get it all because my camera died. So I'm still eating Jim and Nick's right now. We have so much brisket in this house. It's unbelievable, but it was a great trip. I should have saved some banana pudding that did not survive any of the trips from the kids.
That was gone quick. Shout out to the Warbeck boys for
How's that pudding? The pulled pork, not
Devouring
so
that
much, but that
dessert.
pudding came out and that was gone.
That's awesome.
Great spot though. But honestly, like when we first moved here, that was the first spot we went to. That was because we moved to the south. I was in Denver with a few folks that are on the call here, it looks like. And you go to the south and it was like, we got to get some barbecue. And that was the spot. It was literally right outside of work on the way home. And that became our go-to spot when we first moved here and has still been there. So cool to see that, like, we're going to the Chart Conference a few months ago, but also the first restaurant we went to when we moved here 7 years ago.
That doesn't always work. I mean, having moved around a lot, the first restaurant you go to is a total crapshoot. Like when you go to a place and it nails it on the first time, you're like, all right, you have chosen me, I have chosen you. We are in this together. You're my spot, you know.
Becomes the spot. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, so everybody, the chat is working now. We fixed it. So feel free if there's something anybody just wants to like ask or throw in the middle of this discussion. We're pretty free form. We're loose. We're cool. So feel free to add anything or ask a question or drop something in the chat throughout this discussion. So Sam is going to kind of kick off our conversation today, and like I said, he's got his fancy timeline, his fancy chart. We're gonna hand it over to Sam.
All right. So when we talked last time, this whole theme that we're on right now is all about onboarding and about bringing in new folks. And so I keep drawing this. I actually don't keep drawing it. I drew it once, and I just keep bringing the same thing up again and again. But this is the idea here when we think about onboarding and we think about new folks. And so for a lot of us on the call, we're either hiring people or we're training them. But no matter what, you're bringing in new people to the organization. We often think of onboarding or orientation as this event, this one-time thing. And we think about it very differently. And that's part of the stories that we want to tell here. The way that I think about onboarding, or Matt and I think about onboarding, is that you start first by hiring great people over here. But the goal isn't to hire them and have a day one onboarding, which is what we talked about last week. The goal when we hire people is that they're here a year from now, and that a year from now, they're performing at a high level, right? And so we want to design everything all around this, all around day 365, and all around performing at the highest level. So everything we do is designed for that, so that they're here a year from now and performing. Realistically, they're not all going to be here a year from now. No matter who you hire, there's always first year turnover, but we want to hire for success. So everything we're doing is talking about that. We're talking about hiring great people, having a great day one, and then now we're going to move on to the next stage, which is, okay, Day one, they're in. They leave day one saying, yes, I made the right decision to join this brand. That's all we want from day one. Then we move into training. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And what we're trying to do here is bridge the gap from day one to day 90. And if you've read the book, The First 90 Days, it's a classic. A lot of the concepts come from there, but it really emphasizes the fact that the first 90 days of employment tend to dictate the rest. And if we get the first 90 days right, we can get to that year mark. So this is the first milestone, is how do we get from day one to day 90? And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what Stuart's here to talk about. And it's all about this training plan. And this is the beauty, I think, of what we're going to talk about today is we talk about 90-day plans, 30, 60, 90 plans. And for a lot of frontline workers, this makes sense. And there's a lot of these plans in place. What we're going to talk about today is it's not just for a frontline workforce. The same concepts are applicable to your mid-level managers, and they're just as applicable to executives. And we're going to walk through use cases and case studies and things that have been put in place to show that you need to have a plan in place to train these folks. We'll have examples of what they look like, and then we'll get to this goal at day 90, which is what we're building for, which is we want people who are autonomous. They're not going to be superstar A+ top performers at day 90, but they should be really good, providing good value, and they should be autonomous. So that's what we're designing for here, is how do we build that autonomy, build that confidence so they can be working, delivering value, but be autonomous and off of the training schedule. So that's the goal today. We're focused right in here on this box, but let's not lose sight of the goal, which is that we want them to be here in a year and performing well. And that's what all of this is laddering up to. So with that, let's jump into it.
Let's jump in.
Let's do it. So, Stuart, you were with us at Chipotle years ago. And when we were at Chipotle, we were focused a lot on the frontline workforce.
Yeah.
And you've had the chance to focus more on different types of workforces. So before we go into specific tools or solutions, I would love to get your perspective on just on creating autonomy in general, because you've had a few waves of this, but like, how have you approached it, or how do you think about it from whether it's a frontline restaurant worker to a tech worker? How have you seen this come to life?
And it's funny because I would even expand that further, because now in my role at Karma, we're growing quickly, and we are onboarding people to our company, but we are also onboarding customers. And we are in the same game of getting our customers within 90 days to be autonomous as well. And I think you touched right at the head of this, that these themes persist regardless of what industry you're in, right? We are trying to develop people to flap their wings and fly. And so whether that is, a frontline worker or a manager or a leader, or even a customer, we want to empower them with certain basics. I've had the challenge of moving from fast food to phones, and now in my first from a business to consumer to now a business to business role, where we're really onboarding our customers and getting them to follow this. It's the same principles. You really want to give, I love this framework that you've created. Day one, we want to make sure that we're giving you the confidence that you've made the right decision. Day 90, we want to create some autonomy so that you are confident making some decisions on your own. So one of the things that really sticks out is creating some sort of sandbox for people to play in. And we had this at Chipotle, and we were very fortunate to have inherited things like the 13 characteristics, a mission statement, what it means to be a top performer, these things. For those on the call who were with Chipotle, I mean, these are things cold that you could repeat like it's your birthday. These were structural, like, guidance values that said, we created a sandbox. They said, basically, we don't care what you do, as long as they're following these guidelines, you're okay. And that actually liberated people to make a lot of great decisions on their own. I mean, one of the things a lot of people do when they are on their own or keeps them from being fully autonomous is that they freeze, right? They panic. They don't know what to do. But if you have had this reinforcement that if you take these steps, that and you're justifying them by your characteristics or the alignment with values, then you're going to be okay that your manager's got your back.
I think it's right. There's so many ways to break this down of how you pull this off. Because like, I think what you talked about at Chipotle was there's these corporate values that serve as guidance. It's the characteristics we hire. It's the way that you act. And I think that's what we want to explore today is how do you bring it to life? Because when we think about this 90-day onboarding plan, there's always things that are super tactical that are like, hey, there's procedures or SOPs. And I don't care if you're an executive. For executives, it's like, this is how we do annual review process and how you promote people, the step-by-step here. For somebody rolling burritos, it's like, this is how you roll a burrito here. There's an SOP regardless. That like you have to do it this way. You can't make this up. You have to follow this step-by-step. And those are almost easier when it's step-by-step and to create tools for that. But then it goes on the spectrum to things that are more theoretical, more abstract, more like, hey, I need to brace you for the fact that you're going to face this at some point.
Yes.
There's no step-by-step procedure. And I need
and you have to,
stand
there's
by.
this like, yeah, exactly. You have to train people for this like volatility or this uncertainty. And this is really a big difference between the frontline worker, where things can be pretty static and predetermined, versus where you get to a managerial role. Like, I think in a frontline worker, you create a lot of order for people, but a leader takes that order and is supposed to make decisions and maybe is creating some intentional chaos along the way. Like, they have to change things in order to adapt. So you have to, how do you train that? How do you develop that? This at Verizon, they had a similar thing. They had, here's how we're going to answer a customer service question. We're going to have a model. It was called the Andy model. It was check their account, A, check the network in their area, N, check their device, that's D. And then those things should all be working. And then you want to educate them. That was the last E. So educate them on what happened or what's going to happen next. Same thing. We've got a familiar step-by-step process. Now, when I joined Verizon, I joined a startup. It was a wireless, it was an entirely like mobile driven wireless phone company, which is basically a phone store within your phone. So think of like Mint Mobile. They're like this. They're a mobile virtual network operator. It's basically like, if you need to get a new phone and you want service somewhere, you could order everything from your computer. They'd ship it right to you. So Verizon did this, where the brand was called Visible. And when I started, they hired me and a lot of others in part because we brought a different perspective. They wanted to shake things up. And I did that by rejecting the need for a script for all of our agents. And we had about 30 agents at the time, and they all wanted scripting. You know, you guys have talked to customer service before, right? It doesn't sound like this is Second City Improv, right? These guys are reading off of, you know, it's like almost impossible to get them to deviate from that. And I said, well, we're a new brand. We're a new company. We're changing very quickly. What would it look like if we actually had them think for themselves and like contribute and actually problem solve? So what we did was we did create a framework for what our vision was. We created a mission statement. We created characteristics. We didn't have 13 of them, but we took all the customer service agents and we said, what do you think means to be a great customer service agent? So they co-created that framework sandbox for us. And then we would put them in situations in training that forced those characteristics to come out, which gave us a chance to reinforce them. And what this looked like was getting them to chat with a customer way before they were ready, in a safe team setting. So what we would do is we'd have one unlucky volunteer get on the computer, share their screen to the rest of the group, and we all as a team would solve this one customer's problem one at a time. And the look of panic on this agent's face was, you know, I mean, they're brave, they're jumping in there, but they're also like, I don't know what to do. And that in part was by design. We wanted people to be comfortable with the fact that every time you chat with somebody, you don't know exactly what to say. You do not have a script. And And so what we did was, after they greeted them, and we would take them through our knowledge base, which was a resource of articles. And the person would say, hey, here's the issue that I'm having. Okay, they'd say, well, what do I do? I say, well, what's their issue that they're having? Well, it says like their phone isn't working. I'm like, okay, why don't we look in the knowledge base and see what happens when somebody's phone isn't working? And our knowledge base would have all of these answers for them. And then they'd look at that list and say, well, I don't know which one it is. It's like, well, let's pick one. Let's try and troubleshoot it. How would you figure that out? Meanwhile, somebody else in the team is kind of holding that customer, waiting, keeping them warm while we go and solve. Now, we could do this in part because this was all chat related. If this was on the phone and someone was like, hold on, give me 15 minutes because you're part of a training, live training, while we figure this out, it would have been a different story. But what you ended up seeing was opportunities for us to like regroup, debrief with the team and say, we want people we said as a group, one of the characteristics was that people were going to be adaptable. Here's how you showed adaptability in that moment. And, they're like, oh, okay. Also, they're getting the sense that it's okay to make mistakes, that they're in a safe environment. And we're teaching a lot of we're reinforcing those characteristics that encourage them to think for themselves and navigate some of these hurdles on their own. And so we really then you see how different it is from like saying, hey, if somebody's chatting in, make sure if it's this type of issue, you say these things, pull up this script and read these X lines. We're actually training them to think critically. And they had not seen that before. And so this was a really, really big shift. And it was very important for us to do that on as close to the first day as possible, so that we would set the right expectation that we're going to be thinking, we're not going to tell you exactly what to do, but we're going to give you all the tools and resources to help you figure that out.
I love that. It's such a great example of like, reinforcing the characteristics that you expected from day one. Like seeing it come to life is kind of rare. You know what I mean? Like, because it's such an easy thing to say, oh, here's the characteristics we expect. But then like in a live setting to be like, oh,
yes,
you're having to do that right now. The thing that we said we hired you for is right now you're experiencing it. And it's also like customized towards the medium, which was the chat, which is so interesting.
Right. You would see people's like brains, like, when you look in someone's eyes, you can see the gears turning. I mean, their whole mindset was shifting because they had done jobs like this before where the training was read the script, find the script. Now they were like, with their eyes, they were saying, is it okay for me to like think independently? Is it okay for me to like ask a question? And we're going, yes, please ask a question. Please like figure this out, be a detective, like question what's going through. But before, they were very much content to be like, the only question I'm going to ask is, what am I going to do next? Or, what do I say? It wasn't, how do I solve this issue? Or how can I get more information from the customer? So that it was very different. Now, I will say, it does that the while that helped drive autonomy, you do have to create some structure. So I'm not here saying throw everybody into the deep end. If you want to create, they'll be super autonomous, but
good. I was getting worried for a second. I was like, wait a minute.
The training plan is no plan. It's a show. It's a show about nothing.
A training plan
nothing
is just happens. Like, that's right. This is it. This is the training. It's happening right now.
Whatever.
It wasn't, because what you find out is like that people still need some structure, but it's like parenting. I mean, we're not doing it in 90 days, but I think a lot of parenting is slowly introducing just a little bit of chaos into someone's life so that they're able to figure that out and be comfortable with it, because the world is a kind of scary place. And we were doing that in a very sheltered environment. It wasn't somebody just chatting with a live customer. These chats were pretty safe, routed from like a very simple queue. And they had a whole team of trainers and their cohort to help figure out and solve problems. Still though, we still needed some autonomy, or some structure, because they need to know what they're building to. And also, I found out over time, without the amount of structure, people do start kind of going way outside the lines, and
Right.
you do have to rein that in. It's actually a lot easier to start with the structure than to pull somebody in who's like already gone way off the deep end. I mean, do you remember when we were at Chipotle? We were just coming out of the food safety crisis, and we were creating hospitality training.
Yes.
And one of these questions was, what do we want our tortilla one, the first person who was like scooping the rice, what do we want them to say? What is the greeting?
A la like Chick-fil-A, because that was
Yeah.
the gold
What's the
standards.
thing?
Like, it's my pleasure.
That's right.
Like, what's the scripted thing that Chipotle will be I think that was the goal, was like Chipotle will be known for this new phrase that we're going to come up with.
Yes.
Welcome,
And I
welcome to
hated
Chipotle.
that.
What can I get started for you?
Right now, I love that.
That's what
I
it was.
hated, but I hated the idea of it at first, because again, I want people to express their freedom in this like bohemian way of, well, I'm restricting our employees if I tell them exactly what to say, and they should be free to express themselves. We worked with a consultant from, I think, the Four Seasons.
Ellen
Ellen
Dubois.
Dubois.
Ellen Dubois Duboulay. That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
She was great.
And she was very clear with me, and she said, you absolutely need to tell them exactly what to say. And the reason is, when they're starting, they don't want to have to worry about how they're expressing themselves. They want to know exactly what it means to perform well. And if it's saying those things, they will say it and know that they have done the right job. And it is very important to have those standards outlined right off the bat. And I think she said, as an example, that it was either at the Four Seasons or maybe it was at the Ritz-Carlton, but that when you walk up to the check-in, that the front desk was trained to look up and smile. But they were trained to look up when you were 9 steps away, and you were trained to smile when they were 4 steps away. And I mean, this blew my mind. And she said, but this is how you create a brand that is recognizable, and those standards have to be crystal clear. So in their training, they would usually draw like some sort of marker. It was like a sconce light, or when they cross like this sort of part of the desk, or there's an emergency exit, if they walk past that, that's when you know to look up. So they would create markers for each individual front desk, and then they would practice walking up and smile. I mean, this is, to me, just blew my mind. And it's why we have what can I get started for you? Because at Chipotle, when I was there, it was burrito bowl, because there was no standard.
Yeah,
it was
throughput
the
was the name
fastest
of the
and
game.
easiest.
It was the fastest possible thing to ask you to get the line moving.
And what you just described is literally what makes the Four Seasons the Four Seasons.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so it makes you wonder, what are the things that make your brand that you really want to hang your hat on? Like, I think, Sam, when you talked about going to Jim and Nick's, I heard that it felt like a community, even though it wasn't like every spot somehow felt that way. Do they have ways of like making sure that there's some sort of tangible, moment of my pleasure kind of brand moment that they're trying to create in each one of those restaurants?
It's a good question. We should get the Jim and Nick's team on here to find out. All I know is when I go, the feeling is consistent, that it feels like great people that are just there to hang out with you and have a good time and do whatever they can to make sure that you're having a great experience. It doesn't feel scripted. If it is, it doesn't feel that way.
Nice.
But if it isn't, they're consistently replicating it. So I think that balance that you're highlighting, Stuart, is the tension here of like, you do have to tell people what to do, especially if you have expectations. Not fair to set people up when you have expectations and not tell them. But also, you don't want them to be reliant on the tool or the expectations for the duration of their career. Because that's a whole other recipe for disaster. If somebody's there a year from now and they're like, recipe said, I got to do this, or the procedure said it. And it's like, we got to use a little bit of thought and care here. We've got, so there's this evolution that needs to happen. And that tension between those two things is the right description of these 90 days that you've got to get from, I need you to do this, but I also need you to act autonomously on your own. And together we've got to figure out how to get there.
Yeah. I love how you paint that, because I think there is a tension, and I think they can coexist, and they should coexist, because I think naturally it's easier for us to think of, as we're developing a program, to lean one way or the other. But how can we create both of those so that they exist in harmony? How do we create structure, but then that sort of gray area when you go outside of it? How can we encourage some of that decision making? I think a lot of that too happens while you're coaching. This is like the coaching moment, right?
Yeah.
When and that continues well into day 365. By day 90, you should know exactly what your role is and what you're doing. And if part of that role is challenging the status quo, or if some of that is creating like it is supposed to be nebulous by design, then that's okay. I struggle with this in my current role too, where we've got I just hired my team when I started about a year ago, and you want to have role clarity by day 90. But when you're in technology, and Sam, you probably saw this at Red Ventures too, that things are changing so rapidly that we're fooling ourselves if we think that we can come up with like some clear role that is going to persist. But let's not let that be something that stands in the way of creating structure for now. And then that when you have to have that conversation again because everything has changed, because some new release or some competitor's done something different, then at least you're practiced in having that role clarity conversation again. And yeah, members of my team who have been there less than a year, I've probably had at least 2 resets of their role, not for any reason for what they've done, but because we are learning and adapting to a changing environment. So yeah, I'd say more than ever, it's important to create that type of that habit of making sure that there is role clarity, and then creating a bunch of resources. I think it was another point that you had made. How do you make sure that somebody is able to, once they're past day 90, still able to maybe not come to you directly for questions of what to do, but have some resources built out so they can function on their own?
That's right. So maybe let's look at some evolution of tool. We'll do a little show and tell here now of like, let's start at the basics of like, you have to do it this way. And let's graduate more and more to like, here's a framework of how to operate. Even at an executive level, because I've got one for like, I was hiring a bunch of VPs and SVPs of engineering and marketing coming in. And it was like, well, they still need a playbook. And so let's start with like the basics and work our way up there. We'll do a little show and tell as we go through here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got the simplest version, I think, for the food folks on here that we all have is one of these, right? It's the recipe. It's the simplest, like step by step. Place the drink label on the correct size cold cup. Grind and wet, like it's step by step. Here's exactly what you need to do. And for food brands, like this is gospel, because this is when guests come in, they're looking for the consistent experience. If it's a burrito, they want the burrito to taste the same every time they order it. In this case, this was a tea beverage. It's like, I want the tea to taste the same every time. To do that, you've got to follow the steps in order to get there. Yeah. So this is recipe, but like, this is hard to see. And so like, I feel like the next version, Matt, would be like the video version of this to bring this up.
Something like this.
Something like this.
You get it.
But it helps to see it.
Yeah, you get to see it. You get to to reference it with a card, something physical, something you can touch. You get to see it, you get to learn it with the video. And some of them had like voiceover, some of them had an explanation, some of them were just visuals like that. But that was a tea
Mm.
company that we worked with, and I feel like that's and they even had, I don't know, same if you have any like the checklist or anything at hand, but what we built for them.
ERB. Yeah.
Okay, you don't have to. But like, I mean, I really like how, we've talked about this tension between structure and autonomy. So this
Hmm.
brand that we worked with, Chaji, was just such an example of like needed structure. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
frontline employees,
Oh
it's
yeah.
people who had never done any of this stuff. And so we created extremely structured
Hmm.
training plans that anybody on the call who has been in a restaurant will recognize.
Hour by
Um,
hour. Yeah, do this from like
yes.
the top is
Like
like from 10 to 2.
here's what you do every single day, checklist, here's what you need to learn, but also hour by hour, what you need to do, when you need to temp, when you need to clean. So a ton of structure. Like these people needed so much structure. And so we built out like day by day, hour by hour of what a new hire does in their first week, in their first 30 days, in their first 60, 90 days, something that they could reference physically with physically printed out tools like what Sam is showing, but also digitally with digital tools, like training videos, e-learning courses, that they follow in a structured pattern in their onboarding.
I feel like it then evolves into like you've got like the hour by hour, minute by minute procedures, and then it almost elongates from there. We're like back at Chipotle, we had things like this that were the day by, this is the tortilla
Hmm.
training guide, but it was
Yep.
a 5-shift plan. It was like in 5 shifts you should be autonomous on the tortilla station. But then it was broken up into a book like this where you've got like tortilla, salsa. I get my Sebastian Maniscalco every time I do this. I'm like, the salsa.
Did you feel that?
I can't say it without thinking of him saying that. But each of the stations, I don't even know where my camera is, broken down. So each of these has like a 5-day plan. But like as a crew member, you've got your book that's got all your 5-day plans in sequence of like, how do I get autonomous on this station? But at that frontline level, you're talking like days to
Hmm.
autonomy, a week
Yeah.
or so to autonomy. And I feel
Are
like
there
as you,
things in there that are, sorry, not, but like, are there things in there that have like aren't just I checked the box, I did this? Were there questions like what do I do? Ergo based things that were peppered in there, or is it strictly like I did this thing, I know how to do this thing, and we are like we either did it or we did not do it?
you've got it mixed, like the ones
Yeah.
we did there and the ones we've done for others. You've got knowledge check questions for sure, but they're all, it's hard in that level where it's black and white. Where like, I need to know you made the food the right way. There's
Hmm.
certainly questions,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's the method of training that's trying
Right.
to get you there. Where like, it's not just I showed it to you one time, or
Right.
I taught you how to grill one piece of chicken. It's like, I've seen you go from one piece of chicken to a half grill of chicken to a full
Yeah.
grill of chicken in the middle of the rush while you're washing dishes in the back. That's the autonomy that we're trying to get to. So it's not like I watched the
Mm.
how to grill a chicken video. It's I started there with the video.
Yeah.
I then grilled a piece of chicken. Then I grilled the half. Then I did it during peak and someone watched me do it, up to task. ISPV. There you go, Nicole. Classic.
Classic.
Introduce shadow, perform,
Oh
and validate.
wow, yeah, that's a great callback.
Love it. But that's it, right? The whole goal there is to build the autonomy task by task. And then something like this is like grouping in tortilla, you've got like 25 tasks that you're trying to do. I need you to be autonomous in all 25 of those things in 5 shifts. And
Hmm.
so it's like a way to package all of that together.
Right, right. Then how do you within that handle, I always think of the remember in A Bug's Life at the beginning where all the ants are like kind of march, and then there's that big leaf that falls down. It's like the opening shot of the movie, and then the leaf falls and it falls right in front of the ants that are marching in a line, and the ants that are past the leaf keep walking, and the ant that walks up to the leaf is completely panicked. He goes, "I'm lost," and he screams for help. And one of the manager ants walks him around and says, "We're going to walk around the leaf." Right. So that for tortilla one or training in any restaurant, where are those walk around the leaf moments, that do you try and get that in the first 90 days for some of these roles? Or is it, when you say autonomous, you're like, no, we'll work on walking around the leaf from day 91 to 365?
I feel like it totally, like it's built into it where you've got to get there, but it totally depends on the person as they come
Yeah.
in, where you're like, I
Yes.
do need you to fully act and own this place. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it depends. Like, are you looking at somebody who's got a deer in the headlights? We're like, I
Right.
can't have you handling guest objections right now. Because like you can't count the change in the register. And
That's
until
right.
we can do
Right.
that, so it's like
Let's
levels
cover the
by going
basics.
week by
Because,
week.
and I think there are some, but with manager training,
Right,
that
exactly.
you actually have to be ready for those walk around the leaf moments. In fact, if you don't include that in your training, I mean, how many times have you like onboarded a manager where you can't get past the first page because they're asking you questions about what if scenarios?
That's right.
And that's the type of person you want in that position. Don't get me wrong, but uh, but that's also, how do you create structure in training or developing leaders to teach that sort of that behavior, which is by definition not standardized.
Right.
That's
Mhm.
exactly right. Let me pull
Yeah.
up, Stuart. I would love to hear you did this at. You created some more autonomy. Let me share real quick though a version of executives. Like we showed the Chipotle version, but let me share
Yeah.
this, and then would love to hear how you did it. Let me know if you can see this.
Yep.
As you zoom in, I can see it. Yeah, there it is.
Great.
Yep.
I'll zoom in as we go here, but this was for VPs. So this was like you're experienced, you're coming in, whole doc. I won't go through the whole document, but the idea was similar to what you were saying, Stuart, which was like, I can't teach you all of the individual things because it's going to change nonstop. So writing it down is kind of pointless, but I do know a few things. I know that I need you to learn our business in the first 90 days. I know that I need you to learn about the culture of the company and who we are. And I know that I need you to build a community of peers around the company because in researching who succeeded and who's not, the ones that succeed in the first 90 days can very clearly articulate their business. They know the culture and they've got a community of people that they can tap into when they have questions. So to get to your question more around autonomy, it's thinking of it more around this way. And so in this way, it was like, we've got the things that I know you need to do are here of like in your first 30 days, you should be focusing on these areas in your next 30, in your next 30. That's great. The things that I know you need to experience. But the unlock was this building your community. And so we gave them I pre-scheduled them, the founders of the company. You're going to meet with them no matter what. It's already in your calendar. I took care of it. You don't need to worry about it. There's 2 other HR people that I need you to know. You're going to meet them in your first week as well. The rest is for you to fill out. And then the direction we gave them was you fill it out, why you're meeting with them. And then when you meet with them, your question for them is, who else should I network with? And in doing this, you're
That's a great question.
You write it down right here. And by the end, you've met with, the goal was to fill this in. And I was, their accountability partner, whatever you want to call it. But like, let's check in and make sure we've got this. But I want this filled in. And if I know this is filled in and I know this is filled in, I know in 90 days, you've built a community of 100-ish people around the company who you've met with and you've understood at a deeper level so that when that thing comes up, you don't just know who they are, you know who you can tap into to get answers to your questions, or if you struggle to follow up, it gives you the framework of, I know the things I need you to do. I don't know all the answers. You're going to have to fill in some blanks along the way, but as long as you fill in the blanks, you should be good to be set up to succeed. So similar to what we did even at Tortilla at Chipotle, this is for SVPs of marketing and technology to become well-accultured executives over the course of 90 days. So very
How is
similar
that
thing.
received? Like, because I could speak for a lot of senior leaders who get on the job and their job is to figure out the job. I mean, it's like, how, and at the same time, you're probably meeting some executives who maybe don't check their ego at the door. So you're coming up to them with a worksheet and they're going to be like, who the hell are you, Sam? Like, how is that received? And what advice would you have to people who are thinking about implementing something like that?
I love it. It's like you're interviewing me, Stuart. This is great. I'm on
Yeah,
your
now you're on my
I
podcast now,
love it.
Sam.
This is fantastic. No, it's a good question. It's a
We
really
do
good
want to get to
question.
your thing though, Stuart, in the next
Yeah, well, I'm
5
gonna flip it
minutes.
back
We're
on
gonna
you in a
wrap in
second.
5 minutes.
But because we certainly had it. I had executives come in and be like, yeah, buddy, thank you. Do you see that E in front of my VP? You see those initials? Like, I don't need your workbook. And unfortunately, not many of those folks made it and succeeded.
Yeah.
I'm not going to force
Interesting.
people to do it. Like you're a grown adult. You do what you need to do. What I'm going to tell you is that this is the research this was based on. And the way I did it, the way I phrased it was I built this off of 2 years of research studying who succeeded and who got fired from this company.
Yeah.
And the things that this outlines are the things that the folks succeeded. They did these things well in their first 90 days. And the ones that left didn't do these things. And so it's been architected to create success for you. And so while you've succeeded other places, this is designed for this environment and this company. Totally up to you if you want to use it. They would also be the folks that would come back to me in 60 days and be like, what was that list?
What was that thing? Yeah.
Who was I supposed to? But like, we're talking about adults here. Even if you're teaching somebody on Tortilla, we're still adult. Even if they're 18-year-old kids, they're adults. And so like, you can't force people to do it as much as we want to, but it's like, this has been designed for success. You make your decision, but don't be surprised when I come back in 90 days and say, hey, bud, you're not doing so hot right now. We have some things to evaluate. And had you built your network, you would know who to go to. Right now, you're sitting in a silo isolated.
On that community piece, that's why I love that question. When you're onboarding, is to ask that person you're talking to who else they should talk to. That creates your knowledge base, because not everything you're as a executive, you're even as a manager, you're successfully based on the information that you can get and who provides that. At Visible, when I was with Verizon, the brand Visible, or even now with Karma, we have to take all of that tribal information, we document it in a help center. So with Karma, this is my second help center build, creating from soup to nuts. We have to take all of the information that could be in someone's brain somewhere and organize it, document it, make it searchable so people can find it the second they need it. And that's the other way that there's a what do you call it, an analogy there for folks maybe in that individual contributor role, or as a knowledge worker, maybe not a frontline worker, but also frontline workers too. You have to create a knowledge base where people can go to, that they can trust for accurate information. And this is even more important today because everyone Googles everything for the answer to what they need, and they want it yesterday. So we found knowledge bases, help centers to be really, really helpful in keeping, it's like, just like the recipe card. Imagine if your recipe, though, was changing every 2 weeks when there was a new software deployment. We've got to put that somewhere where someone can go and check it. And then we can go and update it without having to print out a whole new bunch of records. So we develop help centers, and we let our customers tackle that. And we find that putting, the knowledge is power. So we want to put that in people's hands. And we don't need them to memorize everything inside that knowledge base, but we do need them to go to know how to get there, to bookmark it, and to train that behavior to go and check it out before you ask anybody. And so oftentimes if someone's going to ask me a question, I'll either ask them if they've checked the help center first, or pull it up right in front of them and show them how to find it, show them how to favorite an article, show them how to comment if something doesn't seem accurate. And getting that behavior gets people to be really autonomous as well, because of course you'd want someone to just tell you the answer, but we need to train people also to search for it, find it, and if necessary, even question it or contribute to it, which just makes the whole platform even better.
I had a question for you, but someone else has a question. Someone named, let's see, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Ryan Smith. His question is,
That's an
What was
AI
the
bot.
time?
That's an AI bot for sure.
What was I think it's a bot. What was the time headcount commitment to build that out? And I was curious, like, because this is one
Oh
of the things
yeah.
we wanted to hear from you was like because this is the autonomy side. We talked about structure. Chachi was very structured, which same sort of structured, but this is about creating autonomy. So yes, what was the time headcount commitment to build that out? Also, what's the platform? Like, what is it? What are you using?
We started writing it in February of this year and released it in July, but we were probably done by April or May. We had about 100 to 150 articles when we first deployed. And we had basically taken all of our instructor-led videos and demos, a lot of handbooks and like step-by-step guides that were scattered around, and then just consolidated them into one place. We had an amazing team. I could not have done it without our team. And so it does take a couple of people to do that, like nearly full time for that time. I wouldn't say it would take, I would say give yourself a couple months to build it out, depending on how robust that is and what your, how the state of your current documentation. Because if your documentation is not written, or you got to get it out of people's heads, or it's in bad shape, or you don't trust it, it's going to take time to validate that and verify it. What also took a really long time was getting the right vendor. I talked to at least half a dozen different vendors. Zendesk ended up being the one that fit our needs, but our Document 360 is an excellent one. I wish we could have gone with them. Help Scout is another. Knowledge Owl is one. There's one called Aha, and there's one called Help Juice, which is based in Miami, Florida. So if you need the juice, head to South Beach, and they'll help you out. Zendesk is great. Salesforce has a knowledge base tool within it as well. It's not great, but it's there. So like any of these tools, the more specific they get, the more focused they are, they tend to be really good. The more you go to a place that does everything, sometimes it's not as good.
What's adoption look like? Are people using it?
Yeah, people. In fact, what's interesting is more of our internal employees are using it right now too, because they love going to it to check on behalf of our customers. And our customers are in there as well. And we also get to see what they're searching for, which is what's great about an online platform, is we get a list of what are people typing in? What are they trying to find? And if there's not an article there, we write one up right away. So there is something that pops up when they need it. Right now, our customers do need to be a little bit, they're used to the sort of white glove service that we give. So they just ask us, but then we are going to it on their behalf and sending them the articles. It's a little different with customers. You can't always force them to go to that help center. If they want to ask you, then you just want to help them out and enable it as much as possible.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure if anybody has any specific questions about that, they could, I don't know, DM you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a great way. Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
But thank you. I think I love that. I mean, just that seeing these examples of the structure and the autonomy, and both of those are needed in day 1 through 90. Next week, we're going to be kind of honing in on day 90 and talking about performance management, how to assess if someone's doing the thing, if they are actually autonomous on day 90 and what that looks like. We're going to be joined next week by
Taylor McKenzie, who's the head of performance management at Lowe's. So Lowe's Homewares, which is great. And she's done it at TIAA, had tens of thousands of people there too. So she's good at kind of mass scale frontline workforce and executive workforce, but performance management. So from day 90 to day 365, how do you get the right performance and measure it along the way?
Stuart, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.